Bayside City Council has released all of their information on Mascot Towers and Peak Towers. Let's have a look. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good Friday. I'm Florian Heiser, and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. I have my stein of coffee, and I'm settling down to do some work this morning when I came across something fantastic. Now, this is from the Bayside Council website. This is the council in which Mascot Towers, Peak Towers, and 27 Church Street, all buildings that have featured in the media recently for obvious reasons, they're releasing the information about Mascot Towers and Peak Towers. They're putting it over to the public. I don't know why they're using the American way of dating here for some strange reason, but this appeared yesterday. And for those of you that aren't familiar, I'll just bring up the map here. And, Mascot Towers is located just a stone's throw from Sydney Airport. I did a video yesterday where I looked at essentially what happened here historically. This was industrial area, and there were a whole lot of Chinese vegetable gardens, people were telling me in the comments. And understandably, there's a lot of contamination in the groundwater around here that has to be managed, and there's a risk posed. So, that's interesting. And a lot of theories are coming out as to why there are issues with the building, why this has happened. Has too much groundwater been removed in the new construction? Because we'll zoom in here. We've got Mascot Towers here. This is Peak Towers here. I'm not sure. I've got to find the name of this building as well, but I want to talk about it too because there's issues going back a long time. And so they've put everything up. They've given all of the information away or put it out publicly for us to access. And I think we need to commend Bayside Council for doing this. This information needs to be available for the public, not just when there's a disaster, all the time. When you're making a buying decision on a property, you should have access to all the construction drawings, to everything that's put through to council, to all the boring correspondence that's gone back and forth. You should have access to that. I would argue that maybe, because it was in the media that apparently the council was delaying issuing the information, and all these people were coming up with conspiracy theories because they sound exciting. And I understand they sound exciting, but before you go Alex Jones, you got two things. It could either be a conspiracy theory where the council is hiding the information, or a bunch of incompetent bureaucrats in organizations that have so much churn there's no corporate memory and stuff gets lost all the time. What would I reckon? Which argument would allow me to sell more vitamin water? I don't know. But I lend more towards incompetence, to be honest, and just these systems of filing and storing information. So I'd kind of lean more, why don't we look at a crypto solution? But, I don't think the majority of people, mainstream people, would quite appreciate that or even understand it. So they've released it, and good work, Bayside Council. That's fantastic. Maybe you need to start having all of this information publicly available for all of the buildings. I mean, what security risk is it getting access to some plans? We're not talking military buildings. We're talking, apartment buildings in the city. We're talking apartment buildings in the city that people are going to buy. They're going to put all of their livelihood often into these buildings. All their savings. If they're getting dehomed, it's going to have tremendous issues. And council, I'd say, is assuming a level of responsibility for saying that this land is suitable to be built on under certain criteria. It's communicating the requirements of the community to these developers so they can provide fit-for-purpose housing for people. Now, New South Wales is a bit funny with regards to just buying there. It's different to Queensland. The legislation and the contracts are different. I'm not very familiar with it, but I know what I've heard. I've heard stories of buying off the plan and then people losing their deposits because developers on-sold to other people. If anyone knows more about it, I'd love to have you on the show so we could talk about it and just share a bit more insight into it, because it terrifies me. I don't know why anyone buys in New South Wales. So let's have a look at what the council has made available, because this is going to make what I want to do a lot easier. And I'll put a link to this so everyone can get to it. Mascot Towers and Peak Towers. In response to public interest in 15 Burke Street and 27 Church Avenue, Mascot Council is proactively releasing information in relation to the construction of the building. More information to follow. And I'll probably turn off the live stream updates. Thanks for subscribing to my channel. It's now immortalized in this video. So they've got it here. You can get to it. And then when you click on it, you go to a Google Dropbox. And I've downloaded everything already, but let's have a look. Let's look at, Mascot Towers. And you can see, we'll click here on this view, and there's a whole heap of exciting documents. Officers report, hang on, modification of consent, 5, 4, officers report, spelt office, spelt wrong, the DA. And, we've got the DA here, the applicant, Crikis Taylor Architects, additional information received to comply with deferred commencement conditions for demolition of existing buildings. 2004, what else? Another modification of consent. So it's just a whole lot of paperwork. Hang on. Yep, we can go multiple pages. Let's have a look to see if there's anything exciting. I mean, this may put you to sleep, and I will go through a lot of this and do some videos and talk about particular things, but I wanted to get this out there for everyone. Here we go. Final occupation certificate. So, dear Sir, Environmental Planning Act and Assessment Act, but before I read this, I wanted to just make everyone aware that this information is out there, so you can get it, so you can share it, so you can have a look at it. We can see here, whole building description use, so, occupation certificate. This is the certification of the building that it can be occupied. The applicant, there you go. The address, the owner. The development consent numbers. The date of determination of development consent. There you go. I mean, it's all here. So, and here's the attachments, design, verification for yada, yada, yada. There you go. So this is what a certifier will prepare for, either the certificate of classification or the occupancy certificate. Here's the fire safety certificate from these guys. So the certifier gets pretty much all the paperwork together from the other parties, and then based on that, we'll make a certification decision. And you can see this is what the building is classified under the BCA, the building code. A Class 2 residential, Class 4 caretakers residence. That'll probably be for the manager of the building. Class 5 commercial, Class 6 retail, Class 7A car park, Class 9B gymnasium. I wonder if that's just because it's commercial or private. An awning and a 10B swimming pool fencing. So there you go. That's the classifications of this building. So let's have a look at what else we can just see quickly. Application to modify consent. So they've put a whole lot on there. And guys, I think we'll have lots of fun going through this. It's going to be a lot easier to have access to the information. I know in Brisbane we can get access to a lot of it, but this will paint a picture of what happened and what the to and fro was for this project. Let's have a look at the neighbour, Peak Towers. And the one I thought was 27 isn't. It's a different one. So, workers executed stormwater plan. Okay, what do they have here? Here's all the drawings. Now, this is something that you have to understand that you may not be aware of. When you do, let's open up a western elevation so we've got something pretty well to talk about this. So, when you have a look at... Okay. These plans are not approved for construction application, must obtain a construction certificate prior to commencement of work. Okay, this is what the council received. This is what the council received. And you can see where the cloud is, that's a modification. So on any of these drawings, if you're not familiar, you've got revisions down here, and where is it? They don't have any of their other revision tags on it. Well, you've got revisions down here. It's revision M. Oh, that's all I can assume. I'll need to download it. But you've got revisions here, and every time you make a change, you put a cloud over it. And this is a development application drawing. Now, this will be the first stage. This is where they get approval from the council to proceed. Then the architect and the whole team will proceed with the documentation to a next stage to prepare documents suitable for construction. And then the certifier will give you building approval to proceed with that. But the problem is, what the certifier stamps could be different to what's actually built in some ways. And that's inevitable. Things will always happen because there's unknown conditions, latent conditions on the site, so you have to kind of adapt to it. That's always going to happen. You're an idiot if you don't budget for that. Okay, you need to put aside a portion of your construction budget to allow for latent conditions, because remember, these buildings are not like a computer, not like a car built in a factory just churned off. They're one-off, unique works in a completely unique location. Sure, there's similarities to other projects, but a building has never been built like this on this particular site ever before in history. Unless they demolished it and rebuilt the same thing. But you know what I mean. So there's always going to be things here. But what we saw yesterday in the video I did about certification, and here in Queensland where they're banning the fireproof cladding, was one little tidbit that came through, was that the certifiers have to sign off on the certificate of classification or certificate of occupancy, depending on what state, or in Queensland it'd be certificate of classification. They have to sign off there have been no changes, no substitutions to materials, because that's one of the big things. You can document it perfectly, but if stuff gets substituted without your authority, that can be issues. So let's have a look. Public domain plans and roofing plan. I mean, here you go. Landscape work, nice little plan. You can have a look at what they've all done. You can see the revisions. What else do we have? North elevation. Let's have a look there. So, actually, this is what we want to see. This is one that we'll go through in great detail. The dilapidation report. Okay? So, this is for neighbouring buildings. What you do whenever you're doing work like this, it's in your best interest to go and do a dilapidation report of neighbouring buildings as well. Because what can happen is, say it's found that the cracking, just as a theory craft, the cracking for Mascot has occurred due to the work done by the building at Peak Towers, the building work there, then Peak Towers would be liable for it. That will have to go to court, but just say. But if they're going around saying, oh shit, there's been all this cracking here, let's blame it on the guys next door and try and get some moolah out of it, but they've got their dilapidation report that shows, well, no, guys, this cracking was already there in existence. That's their protection. So this is to protect them. So we'll go through this in greater detail in another video. I just want to have a look at it. So here, Mascot Towers, let's see what they can have a look. Anything exciting? Have a look here. You can see just the following image displays the condition of 15 Burke Street, Mascot Towers. And there we go. What's that? General condition of the northern facade. So this is before construction work happened. And notice how they have the date on the photographs. You can see here cracking, propagation through the northern facade. So there was stuff already happening before the building was built. Remember, this is done before they built the building, or it should have been done. I'll have to check the dates. If they've already started construction and then done this delap, they don't know what they're doing, but this should be done before construction occurred. So, yep, we'll definitely go through this one in a later video. This will be interesting to see. Look at it here. So, finisher schedule. This is another interesting one to do with particularly polyethylene cladding. Let's have a look. Axon panel similar. Fiber cement, all good. Fiber cement, render and paint. Depends what it's rendered on. Render and paint. What's the substrate? Precast panels, privacy screens. Okay, aluminium doors, Dulux Monument. Oh, I know that. I like that black powder coat. Powder coat's expensive. Okay, so that's pretty similar. Exotech building facade panel or similar. Okay, that's a fiber cement product, so it can look quite good. It's heavier though than the aluminium stuff. That's all the issue. Scion fiber cement. Yes, we put this stuff. Actually, you can get a nice concrete finish. We put it on some mining buildings years ago out in Dornier and Cavill Ridge, and it looked great. It really did. You would be surprised how it looks. So this is another thing that the problem is when you're buying off the plan on a concept design, you don't know what you're getting. Like, you want to know the external materials, and it's probably in the developer's best interest to not lock in what they're getting you to sign off on if they need to make changes. So that's another thing to keep aware of. So guys, I thought this would just be, a quick little video to share this information with you all, so you all know it's aware. Or you're all aware of it. I think we should all congratulate Bayside Council for taking this step and putting this information out there. I think that's fantastic. I think more councils need to do this. I think part of the changes to our entire industry for consumer protection is that this information needs to be publicly available. You need to be able to see all of this and bore yourself to sleep before you make a purchasing decision. You shouldn't have to pay a lawyer hundreds of dollars to find this information for you. You should be able to click a button, download it, and read it yourself. Okay, and then if you have questions, then follow up some other people. It's just my advice. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me for this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ding the bell to see my daily videos, and I'll see you all again probably later today.